I'll never forget the day I was screamed at for trying to buy a donut. I was in my sophomore year of college, standing in front of a small food stall. I reached out for the one I wanted, a simple, thoughtless gesture. Suddenly, the woman selling them shrieked at me. "Don't pick anything with that hand!" Her voice was sharp, and her eyes shot daggers. I froze, my hand hovering in the air. For a second, I was just completely stunned. I dropped the donut I'd been about to buy and just walked away, feeling this sharp sting of embarrassment. All I could think was, had my left hand suddenly become radioactive? Could I transmit some deadly disease just by using it to pick up something I was going to eat myself? That one visceral reaction, treating a simple natural movement as if it were somehow dirty or offensive, it wasn't just about a donut. It was a perfect snapshot of a much larger stranger prejudice. It makes you wonder, when did something as basic as which hand you favor become a social crime? Well, that's quite the tale, isn't it? It's a really powerful illustration, I think, of this subtle yet somehow pervasive bias that most of us, especially, the roughly 90% who are right-handed, might completely overlook.
Yeah.
So today we're embarking on a deep dive into exactly that topic. The, intriguing, often challenging, and frankly, stranger than you might imagine world of left-handedness. We've been looking into a whole wealth of information that truly sheds light on this often unseen facet of human experience. It reveals just how deeply rooted and globally impactful handedness can be.
It really is an eye-opening journey. You quickly discover that handedness isn't merely a preference, for one side over the other.
Right.
It's more like an identity, steeped in layers of history, cultural norms, and even the stark realities of economics that subtly, or sometimes not so subtly, shape the lives of a really significant portion of the global population. So we're going to try and pull back the curtain on some of these deeply ingrained biases, explore some surprising consequences, and maybe even uncover some unexpected advantages that come with being what many people call a southpaw.
Southpaw, yeah.
It's a story of resilience, adaptation, and the quiet persistence of human difference in a world that's often, let's face it, built for the majority.
That opening story really does stick with you, doesn't it? It just makes you wonder, when did something as natural as using your left hand shift from being just, a simple inclination to something viewed as unclean or unlucky or even sinister?
Exactly.
It turns out this bias is, ancient, incredibly widespread, and woven deeply into the very fabric of our languages and traditions. It's almost like this invisible code guiding our perceptions.
And that's really where we start to unravel this whole thing. If you look at language itself, it often acts as this silent, powerful mirror reflecting societal biases that have been around for centuries.
Yeah.
Take the English word left itself, for instance. It actually has pretty unclattering roots. It comes from an old Anglo-Saxon word, list, which quite literally meant weak or broken.
Wow. Weak or broken.
Yeah. Imagine your main hand, the one you use most naturally, most effectively, being inherently described as feeble or flawed by the very words we use every day.
That's quite something.
And this linguistic prejudice, it isn't just a coincidence in English. We see it echoed throughout history and across really countless languages.
That's a truly striking starting point. This whole idea that language, which we often think of as neutral, carries such historical baggage is...
Well, it's fascinating. And this isn't just confined to English, is it?
Yeah.
Can you give us a bit of a broader picture? How does this linguistic bias play out elsewhere?
Oh, absolutely. The Latin word sinister is another really powerful example. Initially, it just meant left. Simple as that.
Okay.
But by the time of classical Latin, it quickly evolved to also mean things like evil, unlucky, or inauspicious.
Right. The negative connotations crept in.
Exactly. And this double meaning, this historical baggage, has profoundly influenced so many European languages. Think about French, for instance, where gauche means both left and at the same time carries these connotations of being clumsy or awkward.
Gauche, yeah. I've heard that used for awkward. Right. Think about that for a second. Your dominant hand inherently associated with, ineptitude. It's subtle, but it's a pretty deeply ingrained insult when you think about it.
And it stretches even further than that, doesn't it? The examples really start to stack up, showing just how pervasive this linguistic association became.
They certainly do. Take Italian. Mancino means left hand, but it can also mean to disfigure or even dishonest.
Dishonest. Wow.
Yeah. In German, linkisch, which refers to left, also signifies awkward or clumsy. Then you look towards Eastern Europe, like in Russian, nalievo means on the left. But it can also implicitly suggest sneaky behavior or even taking bribes.
Taking bribes, good grief.
It's pretty loaded. Hungarian is equally telling. They have terms like balszerenc, for bad luck, and even a phrase that means born from the left hand, which refers specifically to an illegitimate child.
Ouch.
These aren't just, isolated linguistic quirks. They are powerful indicators of widespread societal perceptions that solidified over centuries.
And it's not exclusively a Western thing either, right? We're talking about a truly global pattern here, where language consistently reinforces this negative view of left-handedness.
Precisely. This phenomenon extends way beyond European linguistic families. In Chinese culture, the character for left can imply improper or out of accord. A left path often signifies, immoral or unorthodox means. In Korean, the word for right, oryeon, sounds remarkably similar to oryeon, which means morally proper. Meanwhile, left, orin, has roots in a Middle Korean word meaning twisted or wrong.
Twisted or wrong.
Yeah, even in ancient Sanskrit, vama, which means left, is linked to wicked. It truly is this pervasive linguistic reflection of negative associations that silently yet powerfully shape cultural understanding. This deep-seated bias isn't just about unfortunate word choices, it's a profound realization that language, which we often see as a neutral tool, has historically served as a silent carrier of societal prejudice. It unconsciously shapes our perceptions of right and wrong from the very words we learn.
So it's clear these aren't just isolated coincidences or, unlucky word choices. It's a deep-seated historical bias embedded right in how we communicate. And this becomes even more apparent when you look at how it translates into profound cultural and, religious condemnation.
You're absolutely right. This bias isn't just about words. It's a fundamental part of how societies have structured their daily lives, their rituals, their most sacred beliefs. You quickly realize these aren't isolated occurrences, but a consistent, ingrained pattern reflecting historical views. It starts to bring up this subtle, yet profound human rights issue, the right to simply exist authentically. Even in something as basic as which hand you use.
That's right. For instance, many cultures, particularly in West Africa, have historically seen the left hand as dirty or unlucky. They strictly reserve it for private hygiene tasks.
Right.
This isn't just some informal custom. It's a deeply ingrained societal rule that really impacts daily life. You see this prominently in Islam, where the right hand is rigorously designated for eating, shaking hands, social interaction.
Oh, the clean things.
Exactly. While the left is reserved solely for personal hygiene. And these rules, which were imposed on everyone, regardless of their natural-handedness, effectively cemented that unclean association with the left hand.
Yeah.
Imagine being naturally left-handed and having to actively suppress your natural inclination for even the simplest things, like eating a meal just because of a cultural taboo. You still see it in places like Nepal and India today, using the left hand for personal cleaning, the right for eating. It shows how enduring these traditions are.
And this whole idea of divine favor or disfavor, it's echoed across religious texts and practices globally. It just adds another layer to the prejudice. In numerous religions, Christianity included, the right hand of God is consistently portrayed as the favored one. It symbolizes blessings, righteousness, power. Jesus is often depicted at God's right side, while those who, fall from favor or are deemed unworthy are metaphorically and often literally sent to the left.
Right, the sheep and the goats.
Exactly. That vivid imagery in Matthew 25.3233, where sheep, the righteous, go to the right, and goats, the fallen, go to the left. It's powerful stuff. And this historical religious association even spilled over into social labeling. Back in 19th century Europe, homosexuals were sometimes disparagingly called left-handed.
Really?
Yeah, and Catholics were called left-footers in some Protestant areas of the UK. It shows how deeply a seemingly simple physical trait can get tangled up with moral and social judgment.
It's a stark and, often disturbing reminder of how these biases show up in cultural judgment, and it really does get even more intense, extending into legal and social practices that feel almost unbelievable today.
Like what?
Well, ancient Greeks and Romans, for example, widely considered the left side to be imperfect and blasphemous.
Imperfect and blasphemous.
Yeah. In Nigeria, being left-handed was viewed as something as severe as evil or at best an expectantly curable adversity, something that needed to be fixed or suppressed.
Like a disease.
Kind of. And maybe one of the most shocking examples comes from Japan, only about half a century ago, where a wife's left-handedness could legally be used as a sufficient reason for divorce.
Get out. Just for being left-handed.
Just for being left-handed. Think about the profound societal pressure and, personal anguish that kind of law would inflict.
Unbelievable. And the superstitions and social etiquette built around this are just as compelling, aren't they? They illustrate how deeply this bias seeped into everyday life.
Totally. Like in some parts of Scotland, it was long considered incredibly bad luck to meet a left-handed person right at the start of a journey.
Seriously. Like, turn back.
Maybe. And in Ghana, it is still considered highly taboo or exceptionally rude to point or to give or receive things with your left hand. People there will actively strain, sometimes quite visibly, to use their right hand, even for something simple like pointing directions.
Wow.
These aren't just old wives' tales. They're powerful social rules that dictate behavior and reinforce that sense of otherness for left-handed people.
Given all that pervasive negativity and, condemnation, you might assume this perception is totally universal. But there are some genuinely fascinating exceptions, aren't there? Some surprising spots where the left hand isn't just tolerated, but actually respected or even honored.
Yeah, it's true.
That's precisely what's so interesting. It kind of breaks the pattern. While the negative view is overwhelmingly dominant, it isn't entirely universal. In Tantra Buddhism, for example, the left hand holds significant symbolic meaning. It represents wisdom and the female principle.
That's a huge contrast.
It really is a powerful contrast to the usual associations.
Yeah.
And in early Roman times, augurs, these were priests whose job was to interpret omens and divine will.
Okay.
They actually saw the left side as retaining a positive meaning, particularly because of the specific way they did their rituals, which involved facing east. So that offers a compelling counter-narrative to the widespread sinister view.
And it gets even more surprising, showing a genuine reverence in certain historical contexts. The Incas and the Zuni tribe in North America not only respected but actively honored left-handers.
Honored them.
Yeah, they went so far as to consider left-handed individuals to be older and wiser, and even a sign of good luck.
Wow, a complete reversal.
Exactly, a profound reversal of the typical negative stuff. And in a sort of quirky modern example, the official handshake of the Boy Scouts is left-handed.
Is it really? Why?
It was specifically chosen to symbolize courage and bravery.
Wow.
So these examples, they offer a truly fascinating and honestly welcome contrast to the pervasive negative views we've just talked about. They show that while the bias is widespread, it's not without its rare and powerful counterpoints. Makes you wonder what historical or spiritual frameworks led to such different interpretations, Okay, so we've meticulously established just how widespread and deeply ingrained the historical and cultural bias against left-handedness truly is, from the very words we use to ancient religious practices. And this deep-seated prejudice leads us directly to a really impactful consequence: the widespread, often brutal practice of forcing left-handed individuals, especially kids, to switch to using their right hand.
Yeah.
And the fallout from this wasn't just like a minor inconvenience. It left significant, often unseen psychological and developmental scars that could last a lifetime.
This brings up such a critical point. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights a profound human rights issue.
How so?
Well, these weren't just isolated anecdotes or, parental preferences. This was a systematic societal intervention driven by centuries of deep-seated prejudice. It reflected a fundamental disregard for individual variation and natural inclination. It's about the right to simply exist authentically, even in something as basic as handed. The experiences of those forced to conform reveal a truly agonizing reality. It affected not just their mental well-being and self-perception, but their fundamental ability to navigate a world that was simply not built for them and, in fact, actively sought to change them. The psychological and, fine motor skill development consequences of forced-handedness conversion in children, particularly in cultures that really stigmatize left-handedness, like in some West African societies, are a profound and often overlooked tragedy.
And the impacts were indeed severe, often leading to this cascade of developmental problems. Imposing a handedness switch, which was often done through incredibly harsh and traumatizing methods like physically restraining, tying, or even, hitting the left hand, it could lead to a range of serious developmental issues, things like pronounced learning disorders, dyslexia, stuttering, and various other speech problems. Can you imagine a child developing a stammer or struggling profoundly with reading just because they were forced to abandon their natural inclination and write with the wrong hand?
It's heartbreaking.
We know that children whose handedness had been converted often experienced significant reading difficulties. It impacted their foundational education, their confidence. The consequences weren't just academic. They profoundly affected a child's neurological and psychological development.
And what's particularly insightful here is that even when these conversions seemed outwardly successful, like the person learned to write with the right hand,
Yeah.
they fundamentally did not erase an individual's natural handedness. The brain, it turns out, has a deep-seated preference. Studies using advanced neuroimaging techniques have shown that when a converted left-hander performs tasks with their forced right hand, there's often an actual increase in activity in their naturally dominant right brain hemisphere.
Increase, not decrease.
Increase, which is fascinating because it indicates their brain is literally working against its innate wiring to accomplish the task.
Yeah.
It suggests the brain isn't weakening the left-handed preference, but maybe enhancing the functional expression of left-handedness in its dominant hemisphere as it tries to compensate and adapt.
So the internal conflict is still there.
Exactly. It persists, highlighting the profound physiological and psychological toll of these forced changes. It creates this constant internal struggle.
And this coercive practice of forced conversion was shockingly widespread, deeply ingrained across so many cultures, underscoring the global nature of this bias. In numerous Asian countries, for example, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, it was traditionally seen as profoundly rude or unclean to use the left hand for eating because of that association with hygiene tasks.
Like that hygiene link again.
Yeah. And this belief led directly to widespread forced conversion of children. A compelling 2007 study in Taiwan found that nearly 60% of naturally left-handed kids were compelled to switch. And this pressure was even stronger in families with less formal education. In Japan, the cultural pressure was particularly intense for girls. The conversion rate for naturally left-handed females was significantly higher than for males, astonishingly. 95.1% versus 81%.
95%. That's almost everyone.
Almost everyone.
And the societal pressure wasn't just subtle. It was often overt and systematic, wasn't it? Like in Malawi, for instance, the widely held view that the left hand is less skilled and less powerful led to a staggering 87.6% of teachers and parents believing that left-handers should be forced to switch.
That high. Wow.
And it wasn't just individual families or communities doing this. Entire nations adopted these policies as official educational practice. In the Soviet Union and Vietnam, all left-handed students were systematically forced to write with their right hand. It was state-mandated suppression of natural handedness.
Gosh.
Even historical figures, someone as prominent as King George VI, who was naturally left-handed as a child, was subjected to this common practice. He underwent rigorous retraining. The sheer extent of this global enforcement is truly staggering when you consider its reach and the profound, often agonizing personal costs for millions of individuals. It really highlights those sociocultural factors contributing to the persistent stigma of left-handedness globally.
And the challenges don't simply stop once a left-hander is forced to convert, or even if they manage to resist that pressure. The world itself, in its fundamental design, its everyday functionality, is overwhelmingly built for the right-handed majority. This creates a constant stream of often frustrating, sometimes painful, and occasionally even dangerous obstacles for left-handers. It's this environment of subtle yet pervasive inconvenience that shapes their daily navigation.
It truly is. Just consider a seemingly innocuous setting like a classroom or a lecture hall. Picture a left-handed student trying to take notes.
Okay.
Desks in these places very often come with that small writing surface attached specifically to the right side of the chair. It provides a comfortable armrest and writing space for right-handers.
Right, the standard setup.
But for a left-hander, this means contorting their body into an unnatural strained position, twisting their torso and arm around the impediment. This contortion leads to uncomfortable and potentially painful back, neck, and shoulder problems over time, and it can significantly impact their ability to write neatly or efficiently.
I never thought about the physical strain.
And that awkward posture might even unfairly lead to accusations of cheating if they're seen leaning or positioning themselves strangely. Even standardized tests, which are already high-stakes situations, are frequently designed with questions on the left page and separate answer booklets to be filled in on the right. It creates a physical challenge that can actually eat into valuable test-taking time for a left-handed student, adding another layer of stress.
The same goes for what should be simple tasks in the kitchen, right? A place most of us navigate daily. Simple kitchen scissors are like the classic frustrating example of this inherent design bias.
Oh yes, scissors, the bane of many lefties.
When a left-hander tries to use right-handed scissors, their fingers and thumb tend to force the blades apart instead of allowing them to shear cleanly together.
Right, they just bend the paper.
Exactly. It makes cutting inefficient, often impossible, and it completely obscures the cutting line, making precise work incredibly difficult. And many scissors marketed as ambidextrous. Often, they're just right-handed scissors with slightly modified handles for comfort. They still don't truly optimize for that left-handed shearing action.
No.
Even highly specialized tools like Japanese kitchen knives, which are revered globally for their sharpness and precision, are typically ground with a bias for right-handed users. This makes truly left-handed models incredibly rare and often custom-made, meaning they cost a lot more.
Yeah. And in our increasingly digital world, the biases just continue. Computer input devices present their own subtle yet persistent hurdles. The default placement of a computer mouse on the right side of the keyboard, or its ergonomic shape designed to fit the contours of a right hand, immediately creates awkwardness for a left-handed user.
Yep.
Even if you manage to reverse the button functions in the software, the physical design remains a challenge. It forces an uncomfortable grip. And what's more, frequently used keyboard shortcuts, like Ctrl-Command plus Z for undo, X for cut, C for copy, V for paste. They're specifically designed for quick left-hand activation on a QWERTY keyboard.
Oh, I never realized that positioning.
Yeah. So it forces left-handed mouse users to constantly shift their hand back and forth from the mouse to the keyboard, disrupting their workflow and efficiency. Public computers, like in libraries or kiosks, they rarely offer any flexibility for a left-handed setup, so lefties just have to adapt or suffer through the discomfort. Even video game controllers often have action buttons clustered on the right, simulating a right-handed grip. Think about the Nintendo Wii U or 3DS. Designed for stylus use, it clearly assumes a right-handed player.
This systemic bias unfortunately extends into professional life, too, creating clear disadvantages and sometimes impacting career progression. Research on handedness and employment, it reveals a complex picture. While left-handed men in the UK were actually found to earn about 5% more than right-handed men.
More.
Interesting.
Yeah, but a stark contrast emerges for women. Left-handed women earned about 7.5% less than their right-handed counterparts.
Less. Why the difference?
The studies didn't fully explain that gap, but it's a significant finding. And in highly specialized fields like surgery, right-handed surgeons have been known to express irritation towards left-handed residents, who, perhaps as a result, often receive lower performance scores in training.
That's not good.
No. Left-handed surgeons themselves report a significant lack of access to left-handed instruments during their training. They're forced to adapt with ill-suited tools, which can increase their risk of injury. And get this. One study found that 1 in 10 left-handed surgeons admitted they'd feel uncomfortable being operated on by another left-handed surgeon.
Wow. That highlights a deeply internalized lack of confidence, maybe in their own handedness or just the tools available. That's really concerning.
It is, and the hazards are even greater, potentially life-threatening, in industrial and construction settings. Power tools, heavy machinery table saws, circular saws, band saws, they are almost exclusively manufactured and designed with the right-handed user in mind.
Yeah, safety first, but only for some.
Pretty much. This design bias can make them not just inconvenient or painful, but genuinely dangerous for left-handed operators. For instance, on table saws, the cutting area is typically on the right side of the blade. That makes it incredibly awkward and difficult for a left-handed operator to safely guide the material while maintaining stability and visibility.
You can't see what you're doing properly.
Exactly. Bandsaws often have blade teeth oriented to the left, forcing a left-handed operator to push from an uncomfortable, inefficient angle, with the machine casing frequently blocking their view of the cut line. Handheld circular saws commonly have the motor and grip on the right, making it impossible for a lefty operator to see exactly what they're cutting without contorting themselves into an unsafe position.
And the emergency switches.
Almost always placed for quick right-hand access. This design oversight isn't just an inconvenience, it can be a matter of serious injury or even fatality. It highlights a profound accessibility issue in critical equipment.
Yet, despite facing all this pervasive societal pressure, social isolation, humiliation, being labeled as clumsy or socially inept from a young age, many left-handers actively resist the pressure to conform. This resilience is truly remarkable.
It absolutely is. They often develop this incredibly strong sense of self-identification with their handedness. They view it not as a flaw to be corrected, but as an indispensable and constructive part of who they are.
That makes sense.
This robust self-concept seems crucial for maintaining high self-esteem and better psychological health. It enables them to cope with the daily problems and the sort of agony of an agonized life that can result from constant suppression and discrimination. This internal resilience is a powerful psychological counter to all those external pressures, allowing many to thrive despite the systemic obstacles.
And it forces them to become incredibly adaptable, doesn't it? You find that left-handers, out of sheer necessity, often become highly proficient at using tools and navigating environments designed for right-handers. They effectively develop an ambidextrous approach to many tasks.
Yeah.
They frequently develop unique problem-solving strategies, like using mnemonic devices just to distinguish left from right, a seemingly simple task that can be a daily challenge for them. This constant need to adapt to a world built for others can make them remarkably flexible, innovative, and quick-thinking in their daily lives. It essentially turns a disadvantage into a unique skill set.
Okay, so we've thoroughly explored the deep historical roots and the very personal daily challenges of being left-handed. But this brings us to another fascinating and sometimes, quite contentious aspect. What does this all mean for the marketplace? Is there a hidden economic cost to being a lefty in a right-handed world?
This brings up a really crucial point, doesn't it? It forces us to question deeper societal values. While the economic realities are clear, should a minority group bear the financial burden of simply existing in a world primarily designed for the majority? Or, as society progresses, does a kind of moral imperative emerge that demands we actively work to dismantle these practical and financial barriers, fostering true inclusivity?
That's the core tension, isn't it? Since only about 10–15% of the global population is left-handed, products specifically designed for them just don't benefit from the same economies of scale that mass-produced right-handed items do.
Right, smaller production runs.
Exactly. And this leads to a complex, often heated debate. Is it acceptable for left-handed products to be more expensive? It's often called the lefty tax.
From a purely economic standpoint, proponents of the price disparity argue it's just basic market dynamics. Lower demand inherently means less production, which in turn leads to higher manufacturing costs per unit. Simple as that.
So they say.
They suggest that if companies were legally forced to price left-handed items identically to their right-handed counterparts, many might just stop making them altogether to avoid losses. That would leave left-handers with even fewer, if any, options. It's presented as a straightforward supply and demand argument. Niche markets naturally incur higher costs.
But on the other hand, critics argue passionately that this price disparity is a form of subtle discrimination.
Yeah, you see that.
They draw parallels to other situations, asking if it would be acceptable to charge more for larger clothing sizes or for bandages designed to match diverse skin tones. They contend that having left-handed items available isn't a luxury or some niche desire, but a fundamental necessity for accessibility and comfort.
Right. It's about function.
Exactly. They suggest that governments should maybe intervene to ensure accessibility and fair pricing, perhaps through subsidies or regulations. Or maybe that larger companies with the capacity should just absorb the marginal cost as part of their commitment to serving all customers. It's this fascinating tension between pure market forces and broader principles of social equity and inclusion. Some point out that major successful brands like Fiskars actually managed to price their left and right-handed scissors the same without going out of business.
Ah, so it is possible.
It seems so, demonstrating that different business strategies are in fact possible.
Despite these economic challenges and the lingering design biases, many left-handers have, out of sheer necessity, learned to adapt remarkably well to a right-handed world. You hear countless stories of lefties who, maybe from a young age, mastered using right-handed scissors or learned to comfortably operate a standard computer mouse. They effectively become ambidextrous in specific tasks. This adaptation is a powerful testament to their resilience and ingenuity in navigating daily life.
However, it's also really important to acknowledge that some tasks remain incredibly difficult or even unsafe without proper, purpose-built left-handed tools. Imagine trying to use certain specialized knives, for instance, which are meticulously designed for a specific hand grip and angle.
Yeah, you can't just flip it over.
No. Without the correct left-handed version, it requires a dexterity and body mechanics that are simply not there for a left-handed individual trying to force a right-handed design. This highlights the persistent and undeniable need for truly purpose-built left-handed equipment in many areas. But there is a silver lining. A dedicated market for left-handed products does exist, and it seems to be growing.
Oh, good.
Specialty stores, both physical and increasingly online, now cater exclusively to left-handers. They offer a wide and ever-expanding range of items, from everyday tools and kitchen gadgets to musical instruments like left-handed guitars.
And this leads to an exciting development. Some forward-thinking companies are recognizing that inclusivity, including actively catering to left-handed users, can actually be a powerful and effective brand differentiation strategy.
So it's good business.
It can be. It's no longer just about meeting a basic need. It's about demonstrating a genuine commitment to understanding and serving all customer needs. This allows them to tap into a previously underserved, yet significant, market segment. This commitment to, say, website accessibility for all users and product availability that considers diverse needs is becoming a crucial way for businesses to stand out in a competitive market. It appeals to a global population of millions. The analysis of economic viability and market opportunities for developing specialized products and services tailored for the left-handed population is increasingly becoming a strategic imperative for modern businesses.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty clear picture of the historical and daily challenges, but beyond the obstacles and the forced adaptations, left-handers are also often perceived as having unique characteristics, sometimes even distinct advantages.
The flip side.
Yeah. While the research findings in this area are understandably mixed and complex, some studies do suggest that left-handers might exhibit certain cognitive strengths. They could be maybe more intelligent, more creative, perhaps better at learning foreign languages, and even possess stronger spatial perception. Some theories suggest they might exhibit quicker thinking in certain contexts, particularly in dynamic environments like computer games and competitive sports.
This intriguing possibility could be linked to their unique brain organization. In most right-handers, the left hemisphere of the brain is dominant for language and analytical thinking, while the right hemisphere is more specialized for spatial awareness, creativity, intuition, nonlinear problem solving.
The creative side.
Kind of, yeah. In left-handers, this lateralization can be more varied. The right hemisphere often plays a more pronounced role, or even both hemispheres show more integrated activity. This more developed or highly engaged right hemisphere in lefties is theorized to contribute directly to the creative and spatial abilities often observed in them. It allows for a different, potentially advantageous cognitive approach to tasks.
And we see this played out in a very tangible way in the world of sports, right? Where being left-handed can offer a significant, sometimes even decisive advantage in certain competitive arenas.
Absolutely. Think about baseball, for example. Left-handed batters often hold a distinct edge against the majority of right-handed pitchers.
Why is that again?
It's because breaking pitches from a right-handed pitcher, which typically curve away from a right-handed batter, will curve into a left-handed batter. That makes them easier to track and hit.
Okay. Got it.
And you find fascinating examples of athletes who strategically leverage these southpaw advantages, even if they aren't naturally left-handed. Golf legend Phil Mickelson, for instance. He's naturally right-handed in most daily tasks, but plays golf left-handed.
No way.
Yeah. Similarly, baseball star Christian Yelich maximizes efficiencies by batting left-handed, but throwing right-handed. This isn't just a natural inclination, it's a strategic choice. It demonstrates a clear competitive benefit in high-stakes environments where even a slight edge can make all the difference.
Right.
And in boxing, a left-handed fighter, a southpaw, presents an unfamiliar stance and angle to right-handed opponents. That often creates openings and difficulties for them.
And it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? The constant need to navigate and adapt to a world overwhelmingly designed for the right-handed majority often forces left-handers to become remarkably adaptable and flexible in their thinking and actions.
Like we were saying earlier.
Exactly. They frequently develop ambidextrous capabilities out of sheer necessity, mastering tools and movements that aren't intuitively designed for them. This constant cognitive and physical adaptation could very well contribute to their ability to think quickly on their feet, find innovative solutions to problems, and approach challenges from unique perspectives. They are, in a very real way, born problem solvers.
The good news in all this is that these pervasive biases, while deeply ingrained, are slowly but surely beginning to erode, particularly in Western countries, with significant progress noted since the mid-20th century.
Yeah, how so?
Well, for instance, the frequency of left-handed writing in the United States saw a dramatic increase. It rose from a mere 2.1% in 1932 to over 11% by 1972, and reached around 12% by 1979.
That's a big jump.
It is.
Huh.
It reflects a significant shift in cultural acceptance and a reduction in that pressure to conform. Medical authorities now widely recognize left-handedness as a normal, natural variation in human development. They've definitively debunked those old, harmful myths that directly linked it to conditions like stuttering or other developmental issues.
That's definitely progress. However, it's crucial to acknowledge that the journey towards full, unburdened acceptance isn't entirely over, is it?
No, not completely. A 1998 survey, which feels relatively recent in the grand scheme of things, still revealed that 24% of younger left-handed individuals reported some attempt, however subtle, to switch their handedness.
A quarter of them, still.
Yeah, it indicates lingering societal pressure. And there's an ongoing, quite sobering debate about whether left-handers, particularly those from older generations, might have, on average, died earlier.
Died earlier. Why?
Well, possibly due to increased accidents with tools designed for right-handers, or perhaps from the chronic stress and psychological burden of those forced conversions we talked about.
Wow.
For example, Swiss researchers back in 1999 found that almost twice as many people in the youngest age group they studied, 35-44, considered themselves left-handed compared to the oldest group, 65-74. And the incidence of switching to the right hand for writing was more than triple in the older group.
So the pressure was literally suppressing it in older generations.
It seems so. It indicates a significant historical pressure that literally suppressed left-handedness in those older cohorts.
But despite these lingering challenges and historical shadows, there has been tangible and significant progress in recent decades, right? Particularly in the United States.
Definitely. Specialty shops dedicated exclusively to left-handed products have appeared. They offer a genuine haven of tailored items that make daily life simpler and more comfortable.
Like that scissor problem.
Exactly. Furthermore, public schools and colleges are increasingly acknowledging the specific needs of left-handed students. Many now specify that a percentage of their desks, typically around 10%, should be specifically designed for left-handers.
That's good to hear.
It signifies a slow but steady shift towards a more inclusive design philosophy. It's a growing recognition that the world should accommodate everyone, rather than forcing a minority to adapt to a majority-centric design. This progress isn't just about convenience. It's about fostering more inclusive environments and ensuring equal opportunities.
So, from ancient superstitions and the subtle quirks embedded right in our language, to the very practical, sometimes dangerous challenges of navigating daily life with tools not designed for you, and even those contentious economic realities. The story of left-handedness is a truly compelling testament to how deeply ingrained certain societal biases can be. It reveals how quietly yet profoundly these biases can impact the daily lives of millions of individuals, shaping their experiences in ways that right-handers might never even consider. It's truly eye-opening to take something as fundamental as which hand you prefer to use and discover such a rich, complex, and often challenging narrative behind it all.
It truly makes you reconsider all the subtle, often invisible ways our world is shaped by the majority, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And how much inherent resilience, adaptability, and often unseen ingenuity is required from those who simply fall outside what's considered the norm.
Yeah.
Not just for left-handers, but across so many diverse aspects of human experience. It's a powerful reminder of how much goes unnoticed until you deliberately choose to take a deep dive.
Absolutely. It's been a genuinely insightful deep dive, filled with more twists and turns than I could have possibly imagined when thinking about something as simple, really, as using your left hand. We've certainly taken a long journey with this one, and it's been incredibly illuminating.